Here's what's coming up on Kaleidoscope.
It's our May Function Mayhem edition of Kaleidoscope. Anything can happen. Now that's all coming up next.
You're watching IHS TV, Channel 11. And now, Barry Harris, Laura Boyd, and the K-Scope News team. This is Kaleidoscope News this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, May 22nd. I'm Laura Boyd.
And I'm Barry Harris. What a pleasure it is to have you with us on this fun day we have ahead of us. You never know who's going to get carried off the field in a stretcher playing all those wiffle balls and all those softballs. All right, but first, before anything else, we're going to start off with a look at the weather.
Hi, this is Steph with the weather. Today will be cloudy with a high at 83. Tonight's low will be 66. The current temperature is 63 degrees and the humidity is at 95%. And the barometric pressure is at 30.2 and steady. And now to birthdays.
Good morning, Interboro. This is Will with the birthdays. The birthdays for today are Zach Benavides, Zoe Dean, Ryan Blair, Nick McGregor, Patrick O'Connell, Kenneth Marketich, Cassandra Feely, Michael Garrity, Christopher Paul, and Mr. Vale. And the birthdays for Saturday are Samantha Cordell, Thomas Harper, and the birthdays for Sunday are Sean Boyd, Brian Van Wyck, Christopher Long, and Michael Blake. Happy birthday. Now over to today's headline.
Good morning. This is Jess with today's headline. A Harvard study released yesterday says hard plastic drinking bottles containing a chemical called BPA are leaching notable amounts of the controversial chemical into people's bodies. Now back to the news desk.
Don't forget, you can reserve your copy of this year's yearbook with Mrs. Schwartz, Mr. Pattinson, or Ms. Powers in the main office. The yearbooks will be arriving very soon. Any seniors who would like their awards and/or scholarships announced in the graduation booklet, Ms. Senkow needs the information provided in an official letterhead as soon as possible. Now over to sports.
Good morning, this is Allie with today's sports. The Phillies defeated the Reds yesterday with a score of 12-5. And the Phils start their series against the Yankees tonight in New York. The game starts at 7:10. And that's it for sports. Now over to the news desk.
We want to remind you that May Function is today. Students will be dismissed from class to participate in events, activities after third period. Students who have purchased tickets for the Spotlight Serenade will be dismissed at 9:10. Their ticket will serve as their pass out of class. And don't forget to spend money because all the profits will be divided between two causes. That is Mr. Ryder's community-based organizations in Africa and the Ford Diamond Fund to help pediatric cancer. In other news, the blood drive was an astounding success. 196 registered and signed-in donors were counted, and 148 pints of blood were collected. All those pints will go to save lives. We now turn our attention to the menu item of the day.
Hi, this is Nick with the menu. Today we'll have golden fish sandwich with lettuce and tomato and pineapple bites. And Tuesday we'll have hot turkey with mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, and fruit cocktails. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Now over to the vocab word.
Good morning, Interboro. This is Colin with the vocab word of the day. Today's vocab word is sophomoric, meaning conceited and overconfident of knowledge, but poorly informed and immature. For example, a sophomoric student easily made the honor roll list, but couldn't be trusted with a sharpened pencil. Now over to the quote of the day. Good morning, Interboro. This is Colin with the quote of the day. Today's quote came from George Bernard Shaw. He once said, "It is dangerous to be sincere unless you are also stupid." Now over to the history.
This is just this day in history. On this date, 1841, Henry Kennedy received the patent for the first reclining chair. In 1900, the Associated Press was incorporated as a non-profit news cooperative in New York. Now over to trivia.
This is Brooke with the Pointless Trivia. Did you know that Kermit the Frog is left-handed? Now over to entertainment.
This is Chris with your daily entertainment. Some events happening this weekend are Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus at the Wachovia Spectrum, Star Trek, the exhibition at the Franklin Institute, and Kevin James at the Borgata. Now over to the news desk.
We now come to the final part of our interview with Don Tolleson. It was a real pleasure having him in our studio on May 15th. After we were finished our interview, he talked with Digital Media Club and TV studio production students, and it was a wonderful time, and we can't thank him enough for his generosity and his time. Once again, you can help out his charity, One Child Saved, by going to www.onechildsaved.com. There are links to find out more about its mission and ways to donate. Now, without further ado, here's the final part of our interview. And I want to talk about your current venture is on ESPN Radio. So I want to know a little bit about your format of The Other Side of Sports, which is on WPEN.
Yeah, on 950 ESPN every Saturday for 2 hours. The management there allows me to do something that is really unique in as big a radio television market as Philadelphia. And that is to talk not just about professional sports, but to talk about high school sports, within high school sports, to talk a lot about girls sports, to talk about youth sports even before high school, and to talk about the Special Olympics, special needs sports. We had a whole show devoted a couple of weeks ago to the Overbrook School for the Blind, and to really try to use sports as a vehicle to stress life lessons and positive life lessons. And I think, Barry, that in covering sports, we frequently hear about great teamwork. We hear about great persistence and about great overcoming of adversity. And I think when you take those qualities which are inherent in a limited way in the contests that are sporting contests, and you apply that to social problems, and you apply that to community issues, that's far more important. And I guess an example I can use from last week is we talked about on my show a week or so ago the Ronald McDonald House and the Ronald McDonald Camp. And these are places that enable the families of children with all sorts of pediatric diseases, although historically it started with the Eagles Fly for Leukemia, children who had pediatric oncology, cancer issues. It enables their families to have a place where they can stay while the child is hospitalized. When the child's out of the hospital, they can go to a camp with other kids facing similar medical challenges. And I brought up the point that we could have talked on that show about how 5 NBA players had a great amount of teamwork in their victory during the playoff game the night before. But in St. Christopher's Hospital for Children, or CHOP itself, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, you got 500 people who are keeping a young person alive and enabling him, and more than 500, to have a more positive prognosis. And that's the important teamwork.
That's great. And I'll ask you one last question. You know, from all your years in broadcasting, there's been many changes. Like, I think sportscasts, I don't know if you noticed, do you think that they're shorter now?
Much shorter.
Yeah, and another one I noticed is NFL Network and more team-controlled news outlets. Are they there to somehow usurp the broadcast networks in a way?
Well, I really think that the future of the traditional television news program is very much up in the air in my estimation, because I think with all the new technology and all the new delivery systems, that when I started in this business back in the 1970s, a lot of people literally would set their viewing pattern to watch Action News at 6 and Action News at 11. And no matter how many additional news programs you add, and almost all the stations have added a lot, the fact that a person can go on his or her cell phone, the fact that they can go online, the fact that they can hear online or on a cell phone the person in the news conference that we used to cover as the reporter, there's a lot more direct linkage with news stories, with sports stories. And I really don't know exactly how TV news is going to reinvent itself, but it's going to have to, or the viewing levels are inevitably going to decrease, because people can get what they used to only get on the news, on TV, elsewhere so easily.
All right, well, I think that's about all the time we have. We want to remind you, go to www.onechildsaved.com. You can find more information about One Child Save's history, their mission, and also ways to donate. And don't forget to check out The Other Side of Sports with Don Tollefson every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. to noon every week on ESPN Radio. It's been a pleasure, Tom.
Barry,
Thank
you were
you
great.
so much.
My pleasure, man.
All right, thank you.
That's it, everyone. Thanks for watching Kaleidoscope. I'm Laura Boyd.
And I'm Barry Harris. We hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and we hope that you take a moment to not forget those who the holiday is actually named after. That is, the veterans. And as you know, we'll be back here on Tuesday. We won't be here Monday, so we'll see you then.